Most engineers love doing that because they don't like looking at the same section of code all day. So in a coalition, we get a cross-functional group together and say, hey, we've got a really hard problem to tackle. We want you to help us tackle this problem.
Hi, you're listening to The Secure Developer. It's part of the MyDevSecOps community, a platform for developers, operators, and security people to share their views and practices on DevSecOps, Dev and Sec collaboration, cloud security, and more. Check out mydevsecops.io to join the community and find other great resources. This podcast is sponsored by Snyk. Snyk is a dev-first security company helping companies fix vulnerabilities in open source components and containers without slowing down development. To learn more, visit snyk.io.
Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning back in to The Secure Developer. Today, we're going to have another of our mix episodes. These are episodes where we look to a sequence of different conversations that I've had the pleasure of having over the years and pick a theme or topic or a practice and just sort of get multiple perspectives on that topic to help share them as one package. Today, we'll focus on celebrating success. It's been pretty well accepted by now, I think, that we're all humans and that if you want to incentivize developers to do well in terms of security, then really you should recognize them not just when they are doing something wrong and missed it, which is the default mode in security of being all stick, but rather when they're doing something right. You want to celebrate that success and recognize it. To start us off here, we're actually going to go all the way to the beginning of this podcast where Kyle Randolph, who at the time was at Optimizely, talked about how they celebrate success and really have been doing it quite well 4 or so years ago.
A lot of the conversations we had there was about celebrating successes, which is always tricky in security because not getting hacked is not sufficient because, hopefully that's the normal course of operation. Otherwise, you've got other problems. Did you consider that? I mean, are there ways in which you somehow sort of celebrate either an investment or success in security?
Yeah. So the company has different ways to recognize success, and we kind of tap all those for security and make up some of our own as well. So company-wide, there's a way to like one employee to thank another employee for something. And that's very public and recognized each week at the company all-hands meeting. So using those thanks to thank people who've even just fixed one security bug, anything with security, or they had a good security question to give them thanks there. Stepping that up a bit more, like in like quarterly retrospectives, what went well, what didn't go well. Security guy, you could always just say, well, security wasn't as good as it could have been, but more pragmatically, talking about like who did do awesome security, like this team is great, like they fixed all the security bugs they said they would, or everything they made this quarter, they had a design review before they built it. And so we knew security was baked in at that very early phase. Going further than that, like giving out t-shirts. So like we actually give out t-shirts that say Security Hero on them. This is more exclusive. So it makes people want to step it up and like really go above and beyond to make a security contribution. Like maybe you eliminated cross-site scripting, you built it into the framework your team uses, then that would warrant a Security Hero t-shirt. And then you get recognized in front of the whole company.
Nice. That one you need a slightly higher bar because if you start giving them up too much, then you actually lose the prestige of having that shirt.
Yeah. So many different tiers of reward there and recognition.
I guess are there specific examples of, well, you gave a little bit, with the cross-site scripting framework or with sort of the team that is fixing this, but do you have a specific story that you feel kind of manifests, really demonstrates how this succeeded, converts or the likes?
Yeah. Cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery, in both of those cases, we had an engineer who they may have had a bug or two assigned and they're like, I've seen this before. I don't want to see this again. And so they just went out of their way to really say, here's how we're going to fix this like comprehensively. And in one case, like this one team with cross-site scripting, they didn't even talk to me. They were just like within their own team. The guy made a presentation like, here's why cross-site scripting is bad. Here's how we're going to make sure our team never has it anymore. And then they're like, by the way, we did this. We've banned cross-site scripting. And that was awesome to not even have to get involved. They just took it upon themselves to do it. That's even better than like roping the security guy in to tell you what to do, but to decide on your own to do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's definitely reaping the fruits of your labor, right? You sort of planted those seeds and they grow inside. So this is all like process and people and how do you celebrate them.
Next, we're going to bump forward a bunch of episodes, but still go a fair ways back to episode number 23, where Zach Powers, who is the Chief Security Officer at One Medical, talks about their practices at One Medical. They do a lot to really recognize developers when they do well on security, and they invest in it a fair bit. And one of my favorite phrases from this conversation is the idea of hoodie-driven security. So let's have a listen of what that means.
What do you do about incentives? So one of the challenges that oftentimes comes up is developers are not, instead of the daily use, they're not incentivized. They're there to build new functionality. And if they don't deliver a feature, somebody comes knocking. But if they build a security flaw that gets discovered a few weeks later, maybe it's a security team's response, like that gets thrown under the bus. Hopefully nobody gets thrown out of the bus and it's all positive. But I guess how do you incentivize or encourage, the dev team to indeed kind of embrace this ownership amongst all the many others they have?
It's a good question. At most companies, to be honest, there is no positive incentive other than finger pointing, right?
Yeah.
At Salesforce, we definitely tried a range of positive incentives, and I've carried that on to One Medical. So part of it is simply high-fiving somebody for doing the right thing. Part of it might be everybody loves swag, right? So you want an awesome hoodie, security teams know all about awesome hoodies. We've done things like for individuals who continually do good security practices, make great decisions, have them do a rotation or work on, we call this coalitions, have them work on a special project. So step out of their day-to-day routine. Most engineers love doing that because they don't like looking at the same section of code all day. So in a coalition, we get a cross-functional group together and say, hey, we've got a really hard problem to tackle. We want you to help us tackle this problem. So giving new opportunities is a good way to do that. We've done things as silly as teach lockpicking classes, things like that. So just finding something fun, memorable to positively recognize. So in a public fashion that this engineer's rocking it with security and here's why, give examples. But then giving them something fun and meaningful in return.
Yeah.
It does go a long way. Like the security team at One Medical will often invite software engineers to happy hours or whatnot, where we're not just having a drink, we grab a whiteboard and we discuss things in it. When it is talked about or experienced in a more positive manner, I do believe it goes a long way. People will sometimes say it's a security champions program. Some of those do work for sure, but I would say this is more just publicly and positively recognizing when people do good security behaviors. A little bit of swag goes a long way. Some really nice socks, a coffee mug, things like that go a long way. But I don't see it happen at many companies, to be honest.
Yeah.
If you slow your work down to produce better code, at many companies you're penalized for that.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the case. So you need some executive alignment to be this positive about it. At One Medical, at companies like Salesforce, I could name a bunch of them here in the Bay Area, we have a common philosophy that it is better to produce quality code than to go back and have to fix it later on. Because it usually takes longer. It usually involves some angry customers. It's way more thoughtful to do it up front.
Yeah. I love pretty much everything about that model. You give a whole bunch of examples, and none of them included like bonuses or sort of financial motivations, because I don't think that's really what sets you kind of have this like hoodie driven security incentives, or swag.
It just goes way better. At other companies, we've tried this and experimented, and the cash bonuses don't really work that well.
Yeah. They actually create almost a cognitive dissonance where people think that they're doing it just for the cash. Well, if you're giving them something fun, clearly they're not doing it for that, but they're still enjoying it, and it still has the kind of the positive association that comes with it.
It's key though, and change it up. So you don't always give the same hoodie, you don't always give the same sticker or whatnot, the same t-shirt.
Yeah.
Change it up. Because if people expect that, hey, if I do this, I'm going to get this thing, it cheapens the experience. So there's somewhat of an unexpected surprise. They don't know when they're going to be rewarded, but they realize that there's a culture of recognition. When the software engineering team at One Medical gets together, every couple of weeks, everybody gets together for an all hands. We will sit down with the security team and call out and publicly thank people for very specific actions. They're not asking us to do that, but it definitely goes a long way. And it promotes a cultural momentum that these are good things to do and that it is okay to take the time to produce better quality code.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an evangelist about that. I think empowering software engineers, letting them make decisions, but also recognizing them for very good decisions or very good work produces way better security than not.
Yeah, no, fully agreed. I love that. And I also feel the teams that have the best handle on this indeed do this. I've had the PagerDuty security team come on the show and they were talking about indeed sort of awards that they have for them. They're not monetary, they're just recognition. Sometimes, I forget who mentioned this, but somebody talked about giving explicit security training elements to it. Since somebody did like a certified hacker, like a CEAGA type course, just so that they can have something to sort of add to their resume in terms of like formal, hey, you've invested in it, we can develop those skills. Because at the end of the day, that helps your career as well in the long run. But fundamentally, it's all around getting that sort of positive sentiment around it. The world of security uses the term shame a lot and uses the term pride very little. And, we need more of that pride in it. So we talked a lot about like the software engineering background within the security team. And then you have the engineering team, you train them up, you give them these kind of positive recognition and hoodies to drive the right behavior. Next up, we're really going to have almost a statement from Siren Hofvander, at the time was at Cybercom, just talking a little bit about how can you celebrate something that didn't happen. So I think I understand and relate to the notion of like celebrating the work of developers, for the good security they do. Maybe let's sort of hone in on that and then later kind of back out and talk about the kind of tips and tricks on how do you prioritize. Give us some examples of like how have you celebrated success? Like you highlight their session handling or the likes. Give us a few other examples of this positive mindset.
Well, we have Cake for No Reason Day. So we've had cake for all the things that didn't happen because the system didn't fall over. So let's celebrate that.
Okay, so we got 3 great perspectives, but there's 2 great ones still to come. Next, we'll have Mike Hanley, who came from Duo into Cisco and running their security practices internally. And they've automated and, again, kind of built into their systems some nice recognition systems. Let's have a listen. So, like, when you work with these development teams, right, or you work with other people in the organization, how do you keep incentivizing them, right? Or how do you keep them engaged in this desire to be a part of your security team and feel good about it?
The best way to do this and the cheapest way to do it is really to focus on reliably identifying, surfacing, and celebrating good security behaviors and good security hygiene. We have a friendly neighborhood security bot that reaches out to people on chat and says everything from, thanks for updating your phone to the latest release. You were one of the first few people to do that. You're doing your part to keep us secure, to providing, in some cases, spot bonuses to people who raise their hand and say, hey, there's a problem over here and I want to be in front of it from a security standpoint. So it's much cheaper in the long run for you to focus on identifying and reinforcing what those good behaviors are and making it very visible what the desired behaviors are compared to going around and chasing people with a stick. Nobody wants to be chased with that, but they would much rather hear that they did a great job and have examples of what the organization expects and desires from them behavior-wise.
That's awesome. Do you think actually is that bot like these things you've written about or sort of you have published anywhere? It feels like everybody should be using the...
Yeah. In fact, should probably write a blog post on this, but I'd say if you ever see a Duo employee's laptop in an airport or at a conference, one thing you'll note on there is people love stickers. Yes. So even little things like the first folks to report a phishing email that come into the security team, we'll sometimes give them a special kind of edition sticker that says they were the first to report phishing or attack campaign on the organization. Again, just to recognize the importance of them executing on their day-to-day security responsibilities and helping them realize that those things are not trivial. And in fact, we love hearing from people when they have questions and comments. It shows that the extended sensor system is working well and people feel empowered to execute on their security responsibilities and that their contribution there matters.
And last but very much not least, we're going to go to episode 33, where I had 2 great guests from Segment, Leif and Eric, talking about their security recognition. And in general, that episode talks about developer training and a lot about engagement with developers. But this is just a snippet to talk about how they recognize success and celebrate it. On that note, we talked about education, we talked about engagement with the team. When you talk about this notion of positive, I know you've done some things to celebrate successes. Can you give us a couple of examples of when somebody does
a good thing around security. You have some stickers, I remember some mention of a crown.
Yeah, the stickers actually come out as part of our training. So when you complete the training, we have like this Hackerman sticker that is like this online meme that we use quite a bit in the training itself, so that people can kind of show like, hey, I did the training. Another thing that we've started, and I'm actually presenting at OWASP next month at Uber, I think, which is a leaderboard. So like it's effectively this gamification platform that we built that celebrates those small wins that people have. So like when people come to you and say, hey, I think I noticed this issue, or I noticed maybe some PII in this log, how do we recognize those small wins, right? This leaderboard is basically this UI. I really got enticed by Halo 2 and kind of the notion of like a matchmaking back when I was in, I think, high school or middle school, and like how people can be ranked. And so basically what happens is when you do these small things, we'll recognize you and you like gain experience points. So everyone starts off at level 1, and you'll get, depending on the type of thing that they've done, you'll get like 15 experience points or 25 experience points. And when you get 100, you go to level 2, and it posts like all the great things that people do every Friday in our security Slack channel. So that not just the people that were part of that interaction, like the security team and the developer, but even like the VP or the CTO or people that are like higher up can say, hey, this individual has done all of these great things this past week or like this past month. You'll just see like that recognition happening in the security channel overall.
That's awesome. What types of actions do they get points for?
So like we have vulnerability management program here, like most people, and we rate our vulnerabilities. So like if you find a P1, we'll give you 100 points, right? Like if you go out and actually find these things, it's like 100. So that like P1's like the worst type of vulnerability. If you fix it, we give you 50, because fixing could have been because we assigned you a vulnerability to fix. But like people that are out there proactively finding these things, like we give you 100, and that's like automatic level up. Or we have like kind of a catch-all, like went above and beyond for security. So if they ask someone to badge in, this isn't even just for engineers. Like our salespeople are on this board, and that's typically because they've asked someone to badge in that was maybe trying to tailgate. And another thing that we've done with this is also open it up to other people. So like this is not just security giving these points. Like we're not always around to watch people tailgate. So we've had other people that are not security engineers or on the security team submit these points through the Slack command that we have. And so we were just really trying to build a culture of people recognizing each other for doing awesome security things.
That's awesome. I still think stickers are good as well, even if they're just from the training. I think you also showcase that it's important, but I very much love the leaderboard and those results.
That's it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about celebrating success and feel like celebrating some success on your own. Once again, if you enjoy this format of episodes and you find them useful, please let us know at thesecuritydeveloper@snick.io. And if you don't like it, or if you want to see different formats for it, we'd love to hear from you as well. Thanks, and I hope you join us for the next one.